Next, on Investigative Report. A justice system based upon gender.
Court is now in session.
In America, the average male has a more than 50% chance of being arrested, tried, convicted, and imprisoned than his female counterpart for the very same crime. In this issue of Investigative Report, we delve into a University of Michigan report by Sandra Starr that reveals for the first time the gender disparities in criminal cases and punishment. I used to ask the question, why as a society do we reward women for the very same behaviors we loathe and detest in men? Now, more to the point, why do we arrest men for the crimes we pardon, parole, or dismiss in women? Until I found out that we deal with one with feelings and the other one with fact. Now check the facts. Currently, the statistics of female-to-male incarceration rates in America show that the criminal justice system tends to hold men for longer durations even after arrest behind bars. The current ratio of men to women in prison or jail is about 50% higher than the ratio of men to women committed to prisons or jails. Now, publications of the U.S. Bureau of Justice Statistics obscure this important sex disparity. I wonder why. But why the vast difference between arrest and confinement in a country where women literally outnumber men? Now, you find it hard to believe? Well, as of July 1, 2020, there were 162 million males in America and 167 million females living in the United States. And with the daily outcry over equality of the genders, people are finally starting to recognize these inequalities in prison sentences. Now, Ms. Sandra Starr, a researcher who published a paper on the disparity of genders in confinement in federal criminal cases, was the impetus for this investigative report story. Her report reveals the largest gender gaps favoring women throughout the sentence length distribution, averaging over 60% conditional on arrest, offense, criminal history, and other pre-charge observables. Now, this is the first key in showing that society sees women different than men when it comes time to be arrested. In other words, as a male, you could expect to spend twice as much time in prison as a woman for the same offense, if not longer. In Sandra Starr's in-depth research, she found out that female offenders are also significantly likelier to avoid charges and convictions entirely, and that they were twice as likely now to avoid incarceration if convicted. Twice as likely. She discovered that prior studies have reported much smaller sentence gaps because they have ignored the role of charging after arrest, plea bargaining, sentences down for female offenders, as well as sentences, fact-finding, and producing sentences. Now, like I said before, dealing with females, people deal with feelings. Dealing with males, people deal with fact. Now, Sandra Starr's study explores using a sophisticated algorithm of a data set that traces federal criminal cases from arrest through sentencing. This is the key that no other report before hers has addressed the different stages of inequality at 3 different points after the person's arrest. So if a guy gets pulled over versus a woman gets pulled over, what happens? Now, in her value report, she finds that gender gaps went at every stage of the justice process, and that men and women ultimately receive dramatically different sentences, now based solely upon their gender. Now, this issue of investigative report will not focus on the guilt or innocence of the offender on either side of the gender equation. That is not our concern. Ours is not the job to judge. What we are concerned about here is that as recently as 2020, we have men being treated in a way that has long been abolished, on paper at least, for Black Americans, which is a double standard system of justice. And that lasted for a long time. Now men are being treated the exact same way. This report that she did can be trusted for accuracy because Ms. Starr's study on gender inequality in sentencing uses data from 4 different federal sources: the U.S. Marshals Service, the Executive Office of U.S. Attorneys, the Administration Office of the U.S. Courts, and the U.S. Sentencing Commission. Now, the Bureau of Justice Statistics provided interagency linking files that allow cases to be traced from arrest through sentencing. That's what you want. From arrest, initial arrest, in jail, the bargaining of the case, to the court, to sentencing. Now, her main sample consists of federal property and fraud crimes, drug crimes, regulatory offenses, and violent crimes sentenced between fiscal year 2001 and fiscal year 2009. She constructed three such scales based on the combined severity of all charges: the statutory maximum, the statutory minimum, and a guideline-based measure. Now, if the statute prescribed varying sentences depending on the case facts, she used the default assumption grounded in legal research, not just flipping a quarter and guessing. Now, this very well-documented study principally focuses on whether male and female arrestees ultimately receive the same sentences, but a threshold question is whether they are equally likely to be sentenced at all. That's what's important, whether they will both be sentenced at all. Now, disparities in charging and convicting rates are important outcomes in their own right, and are also our potential sources of sample selections bias in a sentencing analysis. There was a bias. Now, in this fact, genders could be arrested for the very same crime on the very same day, but the importance is placed on the pursuance of the case by the prosecutor and how the judge will allow the plea of the defendant in the case prior to a trial. Because a lot of times, many cases don't make trial. So the estimated gender disparities are strikingly large, conditional on observables. Most notably, treatment as male is associated with 63% average increase in sentencing. So as a male, you expect to be in jail 63% longer than a female, with substantial unexplained gaps throughout the sentence distribution. Now, these gaps are much larger than those estimated by previous research, as I said before. Now, if the government checks out itself, expect a government answer. She was not with the government. Now, in her chart on sentencing, she shows that a man could face upwards of 12.5 years for the same crime a woman would get 6 years for. Now, the longer the mandatory minimum or the jury-determined punishment weighed heavier on men than women. Now, when it came to long stretches of detention that robbed men of their true freedom, it behooved a woman just being a woman. Now, these type of disparities are never mentioned in the local news when local stations craft very defensive stories on equality between the genders. When it comes to true equality, they never mention that. Now, it appears that just as the states do, the federal justice system gives enormous power to prosecutors. The United States in particular, in effect, has a system of negotiated justice, and prosecutors hold most of the chips in this negotiated justice. They have broad discretionary to choose charges from numerous overlapping criminal statutes, and then, from that point on, determine the terms of the plea deals they will offer to a defendant. And it is at that second stage in which they offer an easier deal to women over men. Now, plea bargaining does not necessarily focus mainly on dropping charges. Indeed, the lead charge was found to have been dropped only 17% of the time in this study sample. Now, the federal, local, and state governments tended to have a bias towards women who were married mothers or single mothers with children, it didn't matter, over men who held the exact same position in any given household. So if the guy was a dad of a child, or if he was a single dad of a child, he still did not get what his female counterpart did. And as a society, if we are saying here again that a child cannot live without its mother as much as it can its father, then we are simply repeating the words of a disparaging group that maligns the abilities of men. Now, if we insist that a single mother needs to be free from prison in order to provide income for her children, then we are killing that same example when we remove the sole provider, father, from the home, as well as a husband to his wife who needs his support. So like I said again, we're not judging the person who committed the crime, but equality in the sentencing. Additionally, the average man does not need any sort of statistics today who believes that he is targeted by officers for a ticket when he's driving, targeted for arrest, or incarceration only to have his female counterpart go free for the exact same crime. Now, as her report states, at every step of a male's arrest and incarceration, he is biased against by the country of his natural birth. regardless of the country. Now, in doing this, the justice system is judging defendants based upon what gender is in their groin rather than comparing them to what crime has been truly committed. Judging a man based purely on his gender as being negative is worse judgment than what the Nazi Party would give to the people they were trying to suppress based upon religion. Now, this is actually a smaller threshold to imprisonment than a racist period in America would be using against African Americans. And that would be a dual system of justice. A dual system of justice. One for women, one for men. Now, the danger in doing this is that no one can say why in a modern society we are still judging and punishing men for being men in the legal system. No one can say why we are applying feelings when applying the law towards female defendants. Treating a female defendant as if she were our sister, our mother, our innocent girlfriend or date, but never are we allowed to see her as a person who could have committed a crime. When we take our biases into the legal system, from arrest to incarceration, we are actually worse than any oppressive society that ever existed on this planet. We are judging harshly one category of person. And as I said before, investigative report is not here to judge why a male committed a crime similar to what his female counterpart did, because we don't know the background that drove him to do it. What we do know from these published facts from the justice system is that there is a glaring inequality in the legal system that we as an advanced society are allowing to continue because we are biased towards males as being angry, bad, or bitter, and women as being loving and something gentle not to be punished. Now, that's fine if you're female. Now, to my knowledge, there is nowhere in jurisprudence that asks a police officer, a prosecutor, a juror, or a judge to measure a defendant based upon gender. This means that if we have not been given these instructions, we as a society are operating by the way we were raised to judge the genders, as one being weaker and one being stronger, one being angrier and one being nicer. One is good, one is bad. What I can't believe is that it is why men who wrote the legal system to oppress other men. I can't believe that it is men who arrest other men on a daily basis at will, believing that they are the judge of what gender is bad and which gender is good. What I refuse to believe is that we could seat a jury of a man's peers only for them to judge him by his penis as to his innocence or guilt. And finally, how a judge can follow through with his hate bias for his own gender. It is beyond me. Now, supposedly the laws of the United States were written in an equal sense as to gender. But I know this is not true because the first modern male prison was built in America in the year 1891. In that year, the Three Prison Act established funding for Leavenworth Prison, McNeil Island Prison, and USP Atlanta Prison. But it appears that, ironically enough, the first formal federal female prison was established in 1873, a full 18 years earlier, with only 16 inmates. The Indiana Women's Prison was not only the United States' first separate institution for female prisoners, but was also the first maximum security female correctional facility in the nation. And then before this time period, males and females alike were imprisoned in the same facility, but in separate sides of that particular facility. Now, let's fast forward from 1873 to 2022, and you have 149 years. 149 years later, you have a female prison population of 10,721, which makes up only 7% of the total federal prison population. But compare and contrast that with 147,000 male prisoners, who make up 93% of the federal prison population. Are the courts to blame for the imprisonment of men at such higher levels, or are the officers who feel that they are in danger from a man they fear more than a woman? And a lot of traffic stops that begin with this. I believe there's a combination of both, and a jury or a judge who changes their mindset based upon whichever gender they are dealing with, based upon natural hormones. So it's testosterone versus estrogen. Now, science tells us that men secrete 20 times more testosterone than women, and the amygdala part of the brain that controls many of our emotional and aggressive tendencies is larger in men. Now, both of these things contribute to the male's likelihood of being more aggressive than a female, or does it? That's a good question. Now, don't suggest this to the man who has been physically attacked by his mother, a girlfriend, or his wife. Don't tell this to a man who watches society without getting involved during that attack. A man who questions why he would be tackled by other men to the ground and arrested by police in a heartbeat for attacking a woman in public just as she did to him. Don't tell it to these particular people about the amygdala being larger in men than women. So unfortunately, as a society, we teach the fear of men as early as childhood in elementary class or the stranger danger class. In this class, we don't have a particular danger or stranger. We simply have a danger in that he is male. As we grow into adults, we keep these early childhood teachings as a male and female. Now, as a woman, do you find yourself clutching your purse in an elevator with a strange man, or feeling at ease when a female passenger rides with you in that same elevator? Do you find yourself feeling fear when a male passes by you on a city block, while feeling at ease when a female passes you? If you are a man, do you behave similarly in these same two situations? Now, to those people, I would have to say that it is a proven fact that any subcategory of a person is typically always harmed or attacked by their own group. That is to say that a woman is more likely to be attacked by another woman before she is attacked by another man. And a man is more inclined to be attacked by another man before he would be a woman. You are attacked by your own group. But we judge men differently than we do women based upon physical features, which to me is little more than the Indian or in the country of India where they had a caste system, or the segregated system of early America. We can sleep at night with 147,000 men in prison versus a mere 10,000 women in prison. There's a problem. When we can watch a man get pulled over by police officers and handcuffed on the side of the road and ushered into the criminal justice system without care, we have lost our way as a nation. I oftentimes remind people who tell me that women are nicer than men, and that is why men are in prison. I tell these people that you have deluded yourself.
You're watching M&N, the Men's Channel.
For we are the society behind closed doors who have witnessed our mothers slap our fathers in the face and have said nothing. We are the society who watched a woman slap a man in public and say to ourselves, maybe he deserved it. And we are the public who knows behind closed doors that men and women alike are truly equals when it comes to it. When it comes to doing wrong and horribly wrong, we are equal. But it is when we get in public, do we pretend not to know what we know, and we defend one gender based upon the sex organ they were born with, and we chastise and demonize the other based upon the one he was born with. Now, we will attach the link below. Comment on this video if you like, and judge for yourself based upon the facts. Are we imprisoning men different than women? For Investigative Report, this is Charles Rivers. Thank you for watching. Good night.